Greetings, beautiful, blazing, and amazing ones. I am Shauna Marie from Healing Truth Center, and you are watching Healing Truth Center TV. Your healing happens here. I am excited because I have a very special guest who's doing powerful, amazing, and inspiring things. If you do not recognize this beautiful face next to me, this is Tiffany, the Budgetnista. You need to know her if you are committed to your financial freedom. You need to know her if you want to be inspired about your life and living on purpose. And so, welcome, Tiffany.
Thank you for having me, Shauna. Hi, beautiful people.
We are shining the spotlight on beloved Tiffany for a few reasons. Prosperity now is an important idea that is the hallmark of what Healing Truth Center is about. And beloved Tiffany, beyond being a best-selling author, a keynote speaker who's traveling all over the world, a financially savvy woman who is living on purpose, she has a wealth of wisdom around money, finances, and credit too. So first off, let's tell everyone about your super dope book, which I am slowly rereading.
I'm doing the Vanna Black.
Yes, the 1 week budget.
Mhm.
And what inspired you to write your very first book?
Honestly, what inspired me was that I grew up in a very financially savvy household, and I was always really good at managing my money because there was no choice. My father was an accountant, and he saw to it that I learned that. And a lot of my friends were struggling. I noticed, especially in college, with their money, and so I began helping them. And after college, when I went on to working as a teacher, I began helping all my parents, my coworkers, and there was one coworker in particular. He was having a baby for the first time, and he was really nervous and scared. And our schedules conflicted, and so he asked if I could still help him. And I thought, you know what? I'll just write down some steps for you, and I'll put it in a notebook, and then you'll do the homework and bring it back, and that's how we'll do back and forth. And so that happened over the course of a few months, and he felt really good and about his baby coming and him being able to financially support her. And the notebook just stayed, and then eventually, when my school closed, I decided, I should turn that notebook into a book. And so I did. And so it is.
And it is a best-selling book. Let's be really clear, best-selling book, but best-selling for a reason. There's no shortage of people who are talking about finances and financial well-being, investing, make money quick, and this and that. I think what drew me a lot to you and your work is the practicality and the true sincerity of the education that you provide, right? So education is to bring out from others. You are a teacher at heart, I know.
Mm-hmm.
So in reading your book, out of all of the books that I've read about finances and money, all of a sudden everything made sense. How to budget, why to budget, how to address your debt, how to come up with financial goals and actually fulfill them. So you are young, young and powerful. How did you get this much financial wisdom under your belt?
Honestly, it started with my father. Like I said before, was an accountant and a CFO of a small nonprofit, and he had 5 daughters. And I think he worried that, what's going to happen as they get older? I have no sons to look after them. That's my dad's way of thinking. And he thought, well, I'll teach them to look after themselves. And so we would have weekly family meetings. And during those meetings, we would always discuss the state of our family's finances. And nothing could be said in the house without him relating it to finances in a way. So if I wanted, say, ice cream from the ice cream truck, he would say, yeah, but remember, you guys have been leaving on all the lights in the house. Every time you do that, that's $1. You could have had ice cream, but instead, and I'd be 5 or 6, like, no. And so, but he made everything relate back. If we wanted to go on vacation, we had a vacation jar. If we wanted to do something special, he would show us if we could lower the bill, we could put that money toward whatever we wanted that was special. He would highlight the bills and put them on the dining room table for everyone to walk by and see, like, ooh, we're not doing good like we did last time. And so that's really how it all began for me. And I used all the things that he taught me to teach other people. And really, when I was 23 is when I made the turning point. I just moved out of my parents' house. My sister and I, we rented like a house together. And I was decent with my money, but I just knew that there was more. So I read all these books that meant nothing to me. I could not ingest the information. And I can remember,
I can relate.
sitting on a couch that I had, like, one of my friends of a friends gave me the couch because we had like no money. And I remember thinking, like, oh God, if you could just open my mind and allow me to understand what these books mean, I promise that I'll take this information and share and show other people. And so this is me living that promise. It took me a little while to get back to that promise, but this is me now.
Well, I completely agree with I've had the pleasure of actually getting a taste of her wisdom because but Tiffany has been the guest speaker for the My Prosperity Now program. And so she poured and poured and poured and filled us up around what we can do to take advantage of our finances. And I think what's become clear to me is that so many people don't get the basics that it sounds like you grew up with. And then on top of that, the information that's out there, most of it is difficult to understand.
Because what happened, and this is my blessing, that because I didn't go to school for finances, so I didn't learn all the words and the phrases, and so I only explain it as I know it, and that's how most people know it. So it's, any career that you choose has its own language, and if you're in that career long enough, you forget that other people don't know that language. Even as teachers, there's certain things we might say that I would say about maybe like this child has an IP or whatever it is. And you might be like, what does that mean? And people do that in finance. They use words and phrases as if you yourself grew up in this financial world. And so I think that's what kind of sets me apart is that I don't call it, a profit and loss statement. I'm just like, oh, it's a money list.
Like, keep it real simple, real simple. But it works. It works. I mean, you broke down credit for me the other day, and it was like, boom, light bulb went off. You talked about how to prioritize the things that and it just like, boop, light bulbs went off. But let's talk about Live Richer, because your ministry, your purpose, and your path is really about facilitating a Live Richer lifestyle. Yes. So just tell the Healing True Center community members, what is Live Richer?
So Live Richer really is not about money. It's about purposefully and passionately pursuing your most abundant life. So whatever that looks like, you might want to stay at home with your kids. You might want to have your parents move in with you. You might want to travel the world. You might want to donate and join the Peace Corps and donate your time. Whatever that looks like, to pursue that with everything in you. And so that's what Live Richer. It's really having a wealthy, holistic life. And money is really a tool to facilitate that. And sometimes you don't even need money to facilitate many of the things that you want to do. So I feel like my ministry is to show you how to use that tool, or at least how to eliminate the way we use money to kind of deter ourselves from living richer.
Fair enough. And so I'm thinking about this idea of Live Richer. I can relate because of this idea of prosperity now, and it's above and beyond the money, but money's included, because I haven't figured out how is it that you can do all these wonderful things that you want to do without the money. But you have this phrase that you said, I don't know if you remember this, but you said, if you take care of your money,
money will take care of you. For example, I love to travel. And one of my friends, she travels the world. She has a nonprofit where she travels the world and ministers to young women. She has this great organization called United Initiatives for Peace. And she doesn't make a whole lot of money. She was a school teacher herself. She used to play basketball professionally. And, I thought, but that's not even where, the money has been gone from that. And I would always wonder, how do you travel the world? I do your budget with you. You don't have much. And once you put the energy out there that this is what you want, God will bless you with those things. Because she travels and she helps people, other organizations in other parts of the world invite her out. And oftentimes that's food, she doesn't have to worry about accommodation. Sometimes she even gets a free flight. And now that I've begun to travel more, those things have begun happening to me. So sometimes it's not about you having to have a lot of money. Sometimes the intention just has to be there and you will be met halfway. But most of us never quite get up out of the chair and start walking toward our dream. And so we wonder why, if the dream is not going to chase you down and jump in your lap. You have to get up and begin walking. And so that's what Live Richer really is about.
It's beautiful and it's important. I think especially coming out of the recession, that a lot of folks are looking for inspiration and motivation, but also the next level is being very practical and taking action steps. And So the 1 week budget, powerful as it is, it really does walk you through the action steps. But I think before someone even makes the choice to get the book, follow the 7 steps, what would you say to someone who is doing all right financially? Their bills are paid, they can take a vacation or 2 a year, and then they're watching the show and they're like, well, my money's all right. I don't have any real problems. What would be the purpose of a reset or focusing on their money?
Well, I would just say that it may seem like your money's all right, but you want to know for sure. Because are you the type of person who, if you miss 1 check, 2 checks, that your whole financial stability would be shaken? Because sometimes that's where we are. Many of us don't realize that we're not too far away from the poverty line. And so it's not about, a budget is not to show you what you can't do. It's just to show you what you can do and what you're currently doing. And so that's what I would just implore people who are doing well. Do you have an emergency fund? Are you putting at least 10% away for retirement? Do you have funds for the things that you enjoy doing, or are you just spending as it comes? Do you have a budget that automatically pays out money for you, that you don't have to pay your bills? Are you being as efficient as possible so you can do even more fun things?
How does someone know that they're in a good place financially? Are there a couple of things for them to look out for and they say, okay, now I'm really doing it? You know,
definitely.
Okay.
So first things first, of course, being debt free would be amazing. You don't owe anyone.
No one.
No one.
What about your house?
That would
Your
be great.
apartment?
But this is, I'm talking about idealistically.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
So, and even if owing, we have to remember when it comes to owing someone, that means, is there a balance somewhere? So just because if you pay for an apartment or your cell phone bill, those are not balances. Those are just bills. Okay. And so if you don't have any balances, this is ideal. I mean, I still have balances. So this is, real life. So no balances. Your credit score is at least in the 700 range. That would be another check off the list. So no balances, check. Credit score in the 700s or higher, check. Are you contributing at least 10% to your retirement fund? Idealistically, I'd say 20, but at least 10%. Check.
Can you live off of that? I don't know why. I'll be just very honest, because I've heard some of this information before, and when people who do investment accounts, they'll tell you, get your life insurance, get your retirement money together. But then I look at my grandfather, and I saw how he struggled after he retired. And so here's someone who contributed, worked for, 30 years, and then really struggled to make it as a senior. So I'm thinking that might be a concern of some of the folks.
Was he saving his 10%? That's the thing, you might not know. 10% usually, and honestly, 10% is the real low end. It just means that you'll at least be able to eat and have a place to live. It doesn't mean you're not going to live lavishly. You're not going to be traveling the world. 10% is at the very, very least. So you won't be a financial burden to someone.
Okay, so is the concept that if you are a worker, meaning you work for someone else, we're going to forget the entrepreneurs for a second. If you are a worker, you are working for someone else, at some point your employment will end, you will get some sort of a retirement package, but there will be no influx of money.
Exactly.
And so therefore you have to save in advance of that time.
And that 10% is not just 10% sitting there. This is 10% that you're growing. So this 10% is invested. So if you have a 401k, a 403b, an IRA, these are all names for retirement accounts. So a 401k, 403b, those are the retirement accounts at your job. 403b is nonprofit jobs. An IRA is a retirement account that you'd have at a bank. So if you don't have, you can have one at your job and also one at a bank. So you want to have a retirement account that you're putting money into and the money is growing. So that way one day, if you no longer want to work and you don't have a pension and Social Security may not be there, this money is basically it's like the job that continues to pay you.
Okay.
So that's what it is. They used to have way more pension. So this is almost like your self-induced pension.
Well, you're paying to take care of yourself. You're paying to take care of yourself. And I guess to a certain extent that releases the potential burden on your family members. Exactly. And especially if you are single and you don't have children, then who is going to take care of you when you get into those older years? So these are the folks who are doing okay. I'm sure that there are some folks watching who maybe were doing okay but experienced exactly what you said. a job loss, a career shift,
Mhm.
a personal injury that made them not able to work at the level that they were working before. So they
Mhm.
were 2 or 3 paychecks away from,
Mhm.
oh crap, what now?
Exactly.
How does someone like that start to,
Rebuild.
yeah.
Well, when something devastating happens, because I've been through, I think almost everyone I know has lost their job during this recession, or something. They've lost their job, hours cut, something financially devastating. So first you have to kind of like take stock. It's almost like after a storm and maybe your house was ravaged and you're just like, oh my gosh, you come back and everything's everywhere. You kind of leave, you kind of like decide, what do I do now? You go back to the house and you start looking for things. You start looking like, oh, well, the bookshelf is still here, the bed wasn't ruined. So same thing with your finances. Start looking for things that are still intact. You want to start with the budget first. Kind of like, who am I paying monthly? What things can really go? Everyone should know what's their financial baseline. So your financial baseline is if you list everything that you spend money on, food, groceries, eating out, entertainment, bills, whatever. If you list everything you spend money on and cut out everything that's not a necessary essential, that means no cable, no getting your hair done, no nails, no, like just the bare essentials I need. Exactly. The bare essentials to make your life work. What is that monthly number? So once you know that, now you know, okay, this is my monthly number of what I must make in order to live. Now you can go out and start to look for how can you make that monthly number. So you should know, you don't have to live at that, but you know what your baseline is. So we should all know what our financial baseline is. So I would start with that. Figure out your financial baseline and then figure out what skills that you still possess that can possibly bring that financial baseline into your life. So begin very slow and simply.
Yeah, and I'm sure a part of it will also include, starting to pay back the debt and
Mm-hmm.
making the phone calls you shared with the group
Mm-hmm.
this week about facing the financial fears that we have, about the
Exactly.
different traumas that we experience
Mm-hmm.
financially. Which, speaking of, I did read your blog,
Okay.
Facing Your Financial Fears, and there's a lot of really great things on thebudgetnista.com. If you click on the blog, you'll get to see all these wonderful posts that Tiffany has. And I guess some people just feel uncomfortable with the idea of budget. And I'm going to ask this one question for a reason, and you'll know why. We don't have to say. But some people believe, because a lot of the folks who watch Healing True Center TV, they are very spiritually minded, spiritually focused, could believe that if they are faithful and they believe in God, they believe in a creator and a provider for all good things, that managing their money, coming up with a budget, that means that they don't have faith.
Well, I can't speak for anyone else's faith, but I will say this. I mean, you manage your children. You manage. Imagine if let's just say you're like, God will provide for my bills. I don't have to pay them. Just think to yourself, your employer. You are billed to your employer. So if your employer said, you know what, I don't have to pay my workers because God will provide for them.
Got it.
So it's almost like there has to be a balance of. I think sometimes we have to be careful of what we say God is or isn't. So, meaning, like, how do you know that managing your money isn't God's way of providing for you or showing you how to do that? Sometimes we are looking for. I remember I related that story to you about the gentleman. It's like this cute cartoon that I saw that his house was being flooded. His neighbor came by. He said, "No, God's coming. I've been faithful." A boat came by. A boat came by. He said, "No, thank you. God's coming. I've been faithful." An airplane came by to get him one last time. He said, "No, thank you. I've been faithful." He passed away in the flood, went to the gates of heaven, and he said, "God, where were you? I've been faithful. I thought you were going to come get me." He said, "I sent your neighbor a boat and a plane. I mean, how many other things did I have to send?" And so sometimes we misconstrue what God is going to look like showing up in our lives, but only you and God, you have to have that communication to decide what does that look like for you financially. But I know for me, I prayed for this knowledge and it's come to me. And because I keep sharing it, I mean, my business has grown in ways that I know it's not me. I know it's not me. I mean, things have been, I don't want to say handed to me, but have been coming into my life that don't even make sense, that there's no way that I'm doing this. So I know because I'm being faithful, he's showing me that there are people who need to learn this way of managing their money. I'm not the answer for everyone. So you might have to look for what does your answer look like, but I think that budgeting can be in alignment with that if you want that to be.
Yeah, no, I'm not someone who believes there's anything wrong with budgeting. I actually think that it's part of having integrity and being a good steward of what God and life provides for you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't know where your money is and you're not appreciating it, you're just circulating it with no discernment whatsoever, then how is that using wisdom? So if you need support and understanding, then yeah, exactly like you said, pray for guidance, pray for understanding, and let the wisdom come to you, including when people show up with great ideas and systems that really and truly work. Because check it out, you go on vacation. Tell me about, what is it? You retire once a quarter?
Yes, every 3 months I take off. And if for whatever reason I haven't made enough to go someplace fabulous, then I just take off right here in my home. And, I ride. But I do a lot of traveling. I love, love, love to travel. And that's one of the blessings that I receive. And I remember my pastor, I must have been in high school. He said the most powerful thing that I have never forgotten, that every blessing is excess. So when you're blessed, that there is enough for you to enjoy, but there's always excess in that you have to share some of that.
Amen.
And whether it's the way you look, the way you cook, the way, how much money you have, whatever that is a good thing for you, know that's just not just for you. And, so that's what I feel like that's what's happening right now, that, even with me traveling, I've been showing other people how to travel more, that the bigger blessings that come, the more that you need to be disseminating them out.
You are a phenomenal giver, and I am not surprised that you are a phenomenal receiver, because in the spirit in which you give, so shall you receive. So you're giving out of love and out of intention to support and empower others. So why wouldn't you get love and support and intention and opportunities back from others? Is there anything that's important on the tip of your tongue that you would like to share with the community before we sign out today?
No, I just want, honestly, the purpose of, I feel like my purpose here in life, sometimes you're called, I say you could be a preacher, teacher, healer. There's certain things that people are called to be. And I've known since I was a little girl that I was called to be a teacher. I remember, I would teach my doll babies. I would teach my sisters, whether they liked it or not. They used to call me a know-it-all. That's what my dad would call it. And, and even after my school closed, and I was like, I don't want to teach anymore. I've been teaching my whole life. I taught Sunday school when I was in high school. I've been teaching my whole life. And I thought I was done after my school closed. And then look where God brought me back. I was volunteering a lot after I lost my job. And one of the places I volunteered was the YMCA. And I would teach the kids about money. And then I started writing programs for different organizations just out of volunteer work, because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew I don't want to teach. And I ended up volunteering, teaching. And then the budget NISA came out of that. And so I just want to say that, you have to really be in communication with God to decide, where it is that you're supposed to be. And there's so much abundance out here. And I don't want you to use your financial hardships to snuff out your feeling of abundance, because it's always there. It's almost like, we could
the hardship or the abundance?
The abundance is always there. It's almost like I could turn off the light and I may not see Shauna, but it doesn't mean she's not there. It's just some of us are in this darkness, not realizing the abundance of Shauna is here, whether the lights are on or not. So you have to turn on that light and realize that figuring out a solution to fixing your financial issues, will only help to alleviate that burden, so you can appreciate the abundance more.
Oh, I agree. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful testimony. I feel like you are a living testimony of what's possible when you live on purpose, when you allow God to show up in your life and be led. And I also, for me, it's a wonderful opportunity to feature you, because when I watch TV or when I watch things on the internet, I'm always looking for, how can I be inspired? How can I be educated and empowered by real people? And reality TV is the big thing right now, but this is real. You are living everything that you teach. You're living on purpose, and you are a blessing to others, including me.
Thank you.
So thank you. Beloved ones, you have been watching Healing Truth Center TV. Your healing happens here, and we will be back again soon. Oh, wait. Before we go, you need to know how to reach her.
Oh, yes.
So you need to go to thebudgetnista.com. Everything about Beloved Tiffany is there. And If I did not, by any chance, give her justice, I'm going to try to squeeze it in right now. She speaks everywhere. Her book is a bestseller. Because you're seeing her on the internet doesn't mean that she doesn't have power after power of value to give to you. So do get the book, do go to the website, check out her blogs, and just start. Take one step. Your money matters on this path. So make it important enough to get it in order, in wonderful divine order, and be a phenomenal steward. So love you, bless you. Peace.